The train now arriving on Platform 1 is the 1515 Steam Heritage Service. Passengers, please be advised that the Pullman coaching stock was manufactured by Hornby and due to poor engineering standards, may derail without warning. Platform 1 for the Steam Heritage train, calling at accident and emergency.
Hi, welcome back to Chadwick Model Railway. I'm Charlie. And regarding that opening sequence where you saw the Hornby Pullman cars, yes, I do have an issue with mine. I have 7 of these and they seem to have an allergy to P-code, double slips and diamond crossings. Now I know other people have had problems with theirs, so if you've sorted yours, please leave a comment in the comment section on how you fixed it. And if you have problems with yours, get down in the comment section. Hopefully we can have a solution. It's down to the kinematic coupling. Mine are just awful and I've tried all sorts to sort it out with complete failure, but together we can sort out the problem with these Pullman cars. Now, this video comprises of 3 sections. The first section is how you can bring that station announcement onto your layout, and to that end I'd like to thank a guy by the name of Bryn T, who contacted me following a video I did on loco decoder sounds. So I'll take you through stage by stage on how you can build those station announcements into your layout. Secondly, we're going to take a look at a little bit more landscaping and the issues that I had with that. And finally, an announcement regarding a forthcoming show at Getz, the Great Electric Train Show, which isn't just electric trains, it is diesels as well, but it took me a few years to figure that out. Anyway, this is the 3 things that make up this video. Right, let's get over to the computer and sort out station announcements. Now here we are on my computer, and I mentioned this is a Windows-based computer and I'm using Word. And this facility I'm just about to show you is not available on fruit-based computers. This isn't available on Apple. Right, so you write your text. Now if I highlight this text and then right mouse click, down comes a drop down menu and you can press read aloud. And normally when you press read aloud it starts reading, but sometimes just like that it doesn't read it. So I try it again, read aloud.
The train now arriving on platform 2 is the 11:15 service from Bristol Temple Meads, calling at Didcot, Reading and London Paddington. First class accommodation is at the front of the train, second class towards the rear. The 11:15 for London Paddington now arriving on platform 2.
Now you may have noticed when she said Reading it was R-E-D and not R-E-A-D, because if I ask her to read it again, with the correct spelling of Reading, second time again.
Calling at Didcot, Reading and London Paddington.
So because it's very literal, you need to spell it as it's pronounced, not necessarily as we would say the words. Now, so these are the words I've written into this Word document, but of course you can put in what you like. I think Bryn mentioned that he's named some of his stations after his grandchildren. Obviously you could put Charlottesville and Petersfield and all sorts of things, but which might relate to your family or to your particular layout. So naturally I have things like calling at Chadwick Parkway and that kind of thing. Right, so once you've got your words, what do you do with them then? We then go into Google and we type in here LoveVoice, LUVVOICE.com. Press return. And then don't just jump in here at the first one. As it happens today, it is the first one. Previously I've done it and the right one's been down here. So you click in LoveVoice and up comes this window. Now you can copy and paste from Word into here. So let's take this text, right mouse click, copy, minimize, and then paste it into here. Now this is the default language here, and if I scroll down, it's in English, United States, and it'll be spoken by Jenny. So let's have a listen to Jenny.
The
train now arriving on platform 2 is the 11:15 service from Bristol Temple Meads. Calling at Didcot, Reading and London Paddington. First class accommodation is at the front of the train, second class towards the rear. The 11:15 for London Paddington now arriving on platform 2.
Marvellous. So what are our options besides Jenny? Well, first off, let's pick another country. So we've got lots of options down here. Although if you pick a foreign country, as it were, or a non-English speaking country, you don't necessarily get a translation. So I'll come back. Well, let's pick something like a strong accent, English India, and then we'll generate this and see what the Indian accent is like.
The train now arriving on platform 2 is the 11:15 service from Bristol Temple Meads. Calling at Didcot.
So as you can see, it's a strong Indian accent. Now, we'll do one more. We'll go to a foreign country then. Let's go Arabic Egypt, and I've no idea what this will sound like. Generate.
The train arriving on platform 2 is the 11:15 service from Bristol Temple Meads. Calling at Didcot, Reading and London Paddington. First class accommodation is at the front of the train, second class towards the rear. The 11:15 for London Paddington arriving on platform 2.
So it's in a very strong Arabic accent, but with the numbers are converted into Arabic numerals. Right, so you get the general gist of it. So if you're in America, you can use an American type tone, and I'm going for Ryan. This is my kind of go-to guy. English United Kingdom, male, Ryan. Generate.
The train now arriving on platform 2 is the 11:15 service from Bristol Temple Meads. Calling at Didcot, Reading and London Paddington. First class accommodation is at the front of the train, second class towards the rear. The 11:15 for London Paddington now arriving on platform 2.
Marvellous, absolutely great. So where do we go from here? Well, first thing we need to do now is press the download button. And as you can see, it comes up in downloads. So if I hit show downloads, and there's my latest download. And now what do I do with that? Well, now I need to take it on into another tool, such as getting it onto a mobile phone and then transferring it to a Bluetooth speaker. Right, so let's take it back to the railway. Now, not only did Bryn give me the information on how to rig up these sound files, but also sent me two sort of cheapy Bluetooth speakers. This one's for use in the shower, not too sure about that one on the railway. And this cheap and cheerful little one, it's not quite small enough to sort of poke in a building, but hopefully I can sort of leave it hanging to one side. So let's turn it on and see how easy or difficult it is to hook up to my railway computer. So here's the Bluetooth window, and if I turn on this little device,
Bluetooth mode.
if I press add device, you never know. There it is. For some reason it comes up as BT speaker. Beautiful.
Connected.
Lovely. Now if I close these windows, and there's the icon for that sound file that we made earlier.
The train now arriving on platform 2 is the 11:15 service from Bristol Temple Meads. Calling at Didcot, Reading and London Paddington. First class accommodation is at the front of the train, second class towards the rear. The 11:15 for London Paddington now arriving on platform 2.
Now obviously there's a great deal of quality loss here, because first thing is we've got it from the computer onto this, the Bluetooth file, then onto here, from this speaker into my microphone, over to you now and coming out of your speakers or your phone or whatever. So clearly there is some loss, but I think it sounds very reasonable. So what do we do on the layout now? Well, we can try this.
The train now arriving on platform 2 is the 11:15 service from Bristol Temple Meads. Calling at Didcot, Reading and London Paddington. First class accommodation is at the front of the train, second class towards the rear. The 11:15 for London Paddington now arriving on platform 2.
Now, of course, if you're that way inclined to be a JMRI, iTrain or train controller user, you can, of course, integrate this straight into your system. Now, taking a look into train controller, if I take a look at my warship passenger train, when it comes up and hits block red 2, then it has a job to do. And if I look at the list, what happens is that 6 seconds after it hits the block, then it plays the platform 1 greeting, then after 20 seconds resets itself. So how does that look?
The train now arriving at platform 1 is the 14:10 from London Paddington. Calling at Chadwick Central, Swindon, Chippenham, Bath Spa and Bristol Temple Meads. First class accommodation is at the rear of the train, second class towards the front. The 14:10 to Bristol Temple Meads, now arriving on platform 1.
Well, I do hope you found that little segment interesting, and the great thing about it, of course, is it's free. As long as you've got a PC, you can go to that program, download it, type in your text, save it, get it back onto your computer, put it onto a mobile phone. You don't necessarily need a Bluetooth speaker or anything, and you can build the text to suit your layout. Whether it be your children, your grandchildren, your wife, your partner or whatever, and you can name segments, of your layout to suit. So if you've got the friends around you can have Billy's branch line or Terry's TMD or whatever, and have the announcements to suit. Brilliant. And I'd like to thank a couple of people for the information they helped me with there, and that's Andy J. You know who you are, Andy. Thank you very much for your help getting the file converted into train controller, because I clearly struggled. And whilst we're on the subject of train controller and Facebook, there are so many good Facebook communities, and I use lots of them. I use the Digitrax one, obviously train controller, because if you go on these communities and you ask questions, people are only too willing to help. So if you've got a Z21, the Z21 group, the Digitrax group, or whatever, iTrain, they're all there willing to help you out. It's a great sort of asset using these Facebook groups, so please take advantage of them. Right, I hope you found that bit interesting. So let's move on. Now, while I've been busy with my platforms and all this kind of palaver, I've given a damn good ignoring really to the embankments on the other side, and it runs right from up here right down the other end. So I thought today I better sort of finish that area off, but what am I going to use? Well, digging around, I have a hanging basket liner, which is the sort of coconut matting type, but it is very coarse when you tease it out. But I've also got some polyfiber from Woodland Scenics, and it's green FP178. Right, so what does it look? So what I'll do is I'll do it in two sections. I'll do this top section first, and then we'll move down the other end if I've had a method of success. So let's have a closer look at my options. Now, I popped down the road yesterday to a place called Lidford on the Foss, where a railway line goes through. Now, sadly, as you'd expect, no trains came through whilst I'm waiting. But you can see here on the embankment, it's all kind of various shades of green really, with no real detail, but it's something to try to reproduce. Now here's the polyfiber, and I've sort of teased it out, and you can see sort of what it looks like, and it's, to me, it's the basics of sort of a row of bushes. And then similarly, this is the teased out section of the basket liner, which in this case I think is much more it's too woody, let's say, so I'm not going to use this. What I shall do is use this, glue it in place with some hot glue, and then dress it with some lichens and some scatters and glue it into place. You need to glue this in properly so it is vacuum cleaner proof, as it were, because when you run a vacuum cleaner over the layer, you don't want all this stuff to go scooping up the old Dyson. So let's glue this in place and then add some bits to bring it to life. Now, whilst the deadly hot glue gun is in operation, I've put some material here to try and protect the area from any mistakes which I have made in the past. And if you're a regular on the video channel, you'll know that I often burn myself with a hot glue gun because it's a tortuous piece of kit, really. It really is a vicious sort of tool, but a remarkably useful one. Okay. Right, that's a start. Trouble is with the hot glue gun, you can see these reflective fibres that sort of string out. That has to be picked off later. Right, now let's go and find some other stuff to poke alongside it. Now, I do hate to turn this into like a Woodland Scenics advertisement, but to be perfectly honest, in some ways there's not a huge amount on the market of such quality. Though I know there are people who watch this channel that would disagree intently. Because Woodland Scenics do seem to be, let's say, a dominant force, and nobody likes companies to monopolise our lovely hobby. So as you can see, I'm just trying to put different colours in different areas. And these are foliage clusters or foliage clumps, depending on which one I grab from the packet first. Now, just to add a little more contrast, I thought that I would add some of this kind of leaf dust, as it were. It's a strange sort of, there's just not much to it, but how do you get it to stick? Well, I'm using photo mount. As you can see, I've kind of masked off this little area, so all I'm going to do is spray this little area with photo mount, and this photo mount spray is very, very sticky. So don't, let's just keep our fingers crossed and see what happens, really. You don't want to get it, on the back scene or anything. Right, so, and then if I sprinkle this on, hopefully it will stick and we'll get more of a natural look. I may have overshot on the glue actually, because it has a sort of a grey tinge now, doesn't it? So. But if I peel this back a moment and take that away, hopefully you may or may not agree that it looks half reasonable. This lichen looks a little bit odd still. Whoops. That glue's still on there. Let's stick a drop more of this stuff over that lichen. Okay, that's coming along. I think the polyfibre was okay as a base, but yeah, it's a bit naff really. I must confess, I don't really like this. I think I'll I'll progress my way up without using the poly fibre, and I'm just going to do it in clumps as I've done in the past with bits of lichen and the clump foliage, and bring it up and then see what it looks like. I may go back here and change some of this, maybe rip some of this up. I don't like what I've done with those leaves on the glue. I just think it all looks a bit sort of naff now, to be honest. There's no real detail there. So I shall continue with our clumps. I don't like this particular area here. When I went in there with that glue, I think I just naffed it all up really. So I think what we'll do is we'll come in and cut out some of this polyfibre stuff. Get rid of that. And then come in there with some sort of biggish hunks of clump foliage and try to blend that sort of mistiness out. Give it more sort of depth, as it were. So see if I can add a small tree here to give it a little bit more sort of depth. Yeah, kind of works, doesn't it? Well, there it is finished, but I'm not too sure whether I actually like it at all. It seems a bit sort of bland in some places, and I'm not too sure it's the look that I was really after. So before I go on and do the next section, I think what I shall do is go and seek some adult leadership from someone like the guys at World War Scenics. I think that's probably the best bet. Anyway, we are where we are. And now moving on to the Great Electric Train Show. Now it takes place in the Marshall Arena on the 11th and 12th of October. That's the Saturday and the Sunday. And whilst I'm on the subject, on Sunday children get in free. Very noteworthy. Now the Marshall Arena is next to the MK Dons Stadium, and wrapped around that stadium is the Doubletree by Hilton Hotel. Worth noting if you want to stay over, because now's the time to book it, because the prices in the hotel are only going to go up the closer you get to the exhibition. Right. Now my plans from Deepest Darkest Somerset is to drive up probably to Didcot on Friday morning lunchtime and have a little look at the Great Western Railway facility there, and then travel up to Milton Keynes. It's a Friday afternoon. What could possibly go wrong there? But it's not the biggest model railway show in England, but in my mind it is certainly the best and the friendliest. But a couple of words of advice. If you're not that mobile, you might be in a wheelchair or perhaps on crutches or whatever, then come early or come late, because as you go into the arena there are various levels to one side of other floors of model railway stuff, traders, etc. Now during the busy part of the day, let's say sort of between 11 o'clock and 3, it's manic. It really is sharpen your elbows time. And if you're sadly in a wheelchair, then it's very difficult to get up there and get around. So come early or sort of come later, and that way you can get around and appreciate all the other stalls that are off the main floor, as it were. Now, what else happens at that show on the Saturday evening is the winners of the Key Model World Hornby magazine awards are announced. Right, now I will leave a link down below and maybe up here so you can go to that voting form. Now, a word of warning on the voting form, which I always I do now. I don't go in there and just vote for the ones that I've kind of heard of. Now, I know nothing about O gauge trains, so when I get to the O gauge category, I just skip past it, because it would be wrong for me to pick out the prettiest loco or that I've never heard of. However, if a friend of mine has got a class, whatever it is, in such and such a class, and he recommends it, I've seen it, it's a nice piece of kit, then I'll vote for it. But I don't vote for stuff that I've never seen. So you just go straight through that category and vote for the ones you've heard of. Now, How selfish of me. There are YouTube categories as well, and I can't deny it. I've been nominated in both categories, so your vote would be very much appreciated. Right. If you're at the show and you see me, come over and say hello. I can't buy you a cup of tea because it'll be 10 deep at the cafe, but please come over. I'd love to shake your hand and perhaps have a selfie. It's a great show. Please, please come along. And furthermore, I'll be at the show all day Saturday and Sunday. Marvellous. In the meantime, there's the old button if you want to become a subscriber. Subscribing is free. And there's the button if you'd like to support the channel and become a patron. Patrons very much appreciated. Great. Anyway, there's a video here and here, and I'll see you at the show or in 2 weeks' time. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye.